Let's see how many people I can trigger. Oh look, Sam the train fan complaining about how things look again. How very original.
Hey, shut up, Tom. It's my channel, my video. Talk about whatever I want. So there. Thomas and Friends is what I would call a decently animated show. Compared to other children's shows I've seen in the past, the computer-generated imagery seen in Thomas is far superior. There is plenty of detail, good lighting, and is very reminiscent of the model series before it. There are also some stellar character designs and renders. And then there are some renders that I just think are... How the characters look is important to me, and when they're misrepresented, I get far more annoyed than I really should. So today I thought I'd take the time to speak to you about the good, the bad, and the ugly of what I consider to be the top 5 character renders in Thomas and Friends in need of improvement. Number 5. The Express Coaches. Of course, the Express Coaches are not characters, at least not anymore, so you may be wondering why I've given them a spot on this list. The simple answer is their design is awful. In the model series, the coaches were much wider and way more believable as coaches that would really be part of an actual express train. In the CGI series, they are of a freelance design and are absurdly thin. The branch line coaches are wider than these things and seem to have much nicer interiors and upholstery as well. In the express coaches, there is no corridor or emergency cable anywhere, and they just aren't convincing. The best thing about them are their liveries. Since they aren't characters, they get the number 5 spot on this list. Number 4. Duck. Duck, 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 duck. Goose. Duck has had it hard in CGI. When he returned in the 17th season, he returned with some select modifications, as all returning characters do, for better or for worse. The most jarring alteration was his overall size. He became absolutely enormous. Duck was never the smallest engine, but he was never supposed to be the Incredible Hulk. Thankfully, the animators have noticed this issue, and have done their best to change it. They've changed it alright. Now, there are new issues. In Season 20, Duck was scaled down significantly. At first glance, a great improvement. But the closer you look, the more errors become clear. When Duck was huge, he didn't have any rendering errors. But now he's smaller, he has far too many. For starters, his handrail clips through his tank. One of his buffers is missing a base. The shadowing around his buffer beam is completely out of place, and his coupling base clips through his buffer beam. Do the animators not double check their renders at all? These are all unintentional errors yet to be rectified. At least when he was massive, he had no issues like these. Besides those things, the proportions of his render aren't too bad, and I appreciate the attempt to rectify the issues with his model, but they ultimately created more in the process. The fact they tried to change him earned him the number 4 spot. Number 3. The Flying Scotsman. Unfortunately, one of the world's favourite steam locomotives suffered aesthetically wise when he entered the Thomas franchise in CGI. I find Flying Scotsman's render awkward in many ways. The main reason I think this is because he just appears extremely chunky, with an oddly large buffer beam and boiler. I'm certain many of you thought his face was too large, and you are absolutely correct. Compared to his basis, Gordon's boiler is too large, but Scotsman's is even bigger. A legitimate error on Scotsman's render is the number of tender wheels he has. In actuality, the real locomotive has 8 on both tenders, but in the Great Race he is presented with 6. I heard word that this is going to be rectified for future appearances, and that's a-okay with me. Flying Scotsman's design is a mashup of his 2 major appearances the real engine has had over the course of its working life. Thomas Flying Scotsman has his signature 2 tenders and smoke deflectors at the same time, something the real engine never had. While from a historical standpoint it irks me, I don't mind this in full honesty. I don't like, however, how far back the smoke deflectors are on his smoke box. I understand that they can slide forward, as shown in the special, but constantly having them clinging to the smoke box just seems to entirely defeat the purpose. If they could be deployed at all times in future, I'd be a very happy train fan. Aside from all these things, Scotsman's render does have some admirable detail, and is certainly not the worst one of the bunch, which is why he has the number 3 spot on this list. Number 2. Oliver. You knew this one was coming. Oliver's render is extremely flawed in numerous ways. So many changes were made to his design when he entered the animated world of Thomas, and none of them necessary. The most obvious and worst change is how small he has become. I don't know whose idea it was to have him so gosh darn tiny, but it was a very silly decision. Open trucks tower over him, and while yes, they are larger in CGI than they were in the model series, this is still an issue that has no reason to exist. I just don't get how this happens. Did they try and make him a mix between how he looked in the Railway series and this model? Oliver is a tall tank engine, not to mention he and Duck should be virtually the same size. The model series pulled this off perfectly. CGI Oliver is extremely low slung and his chassis almost looks too big for him, not to mention how far apart his driving wheels are from one another. Like, what gives? They're close to each other on the basis and the model, so what were you going for? To add to that, his dome is oddly tall and thin, he has a dreadful looking funnel compared to his old one, a tiny buffer beam, and a weirdly thick footplate. His proportions are out of whack also, with his boiler being raised too high as well as being too small. There's not a lot more I can really say that I haven't already, so these mistakes earn Oliver the number 2 spot. Before I unveil my top pick, here are some honourable mentions that were just shy of making the list. To prevent this video from being too long, I shall leave my thoughts on these characters in the description. Jack, Donald and Douglas, Toad, and James. And the number 1 character design in need of improvement is Duncan. Duncan's design is pretty much different in every single way to his previous appearances and basis. It's just so broken and wrong. To start, he is far too short compared to the other narrow gauge railway engines, but on his own he looks too tall. His footplate is virtually a square, his boiler is far too small and far too low. He has a red running board like a frickin' take and play, and is very wide. The proportions are all over the place. Honestly, with different colours, I don't think I'd been able to tell who he's meant to be. What really makes his design so much worse is just how good Nitrogen's other Scarlo railway engines look in comparison with their actual basis and the models. They really make Duncan seem like the odd one out, and it's just such a shame that Douglas, his basis, was away being mended when the animators visited the Tully-Flint Railway to get measurements of the engines for their renders. Ark clearly didn't do much research at all when rendering him. Okay, so you see that there? We need that in CGI by tomorrow. No sweat, dude. I can do this from memory. So what do you think? Well, from what I can remember, that looks absolutely perfect. There's not much more I can really say without sounding like a broken record. So Duncan is the number 1 worst Thomas and Friends CGI render. So that's about all I really have to say about that. Thanks to Tom for cameoing at the start, and thanks to Iron Engine for being a twat. Love you, buddy. Huge thanks also to all the music creators. What topic would you like to see me discuss next? Comment below and let me know. And yes, I am acutely aware that I am a nitpicky swine, so there's no need to tell me that. And I am also aware that how a character looks does not at all affect them as a character. Thank you. Yeah, this video's gone on long enough. Sam the Train Fan, out.